Welcome back, everybody, to Andy the Banker Show. I do want to talk a little bit about high yield savings accounts today because the past year, essentially the past couple years, when the interest rates were going up, everybody on the social media websites, they're telling you, open a high yield savings account. You got to have a high yield savings account. I was somebody that disagreed with that for my personal life. I was not a big fan of high yield savings account for myself. And I'm in a very particular situation, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. This is not a video of me telling you to open a high yield savings account, keep a high yield savings account, or close out your high yield savings account. It's your money. You decide what to do with it. But here's just my gist on high yield savings account and why I don't have one. What is beneficial about it? What's the cons about it? My name is Andy the Banker. I'm 27 years old, all right, and I have no high yield savings account. Somebody might be like, wow, shocker. Why don't you have a high yield savings account? It's because I'm basically fully invested in the stock market. In my checking account, I got like $400, $500 for the daily expenses, whatever I need. But everything else, excess savings that I have, I put it all into the stock market and pick my 4 stocks that you can see on my other previous videos. Now, why am I not a big fan of high yield savings account for myself, like in my opinion? It's because I believe in taking a little bit more risk than the average yield that high yield savings account are giving out. If I look at the market right now, they're giving out around like 5%, 4 to 5% annual percentage yield on these savings account, which is great for some people. But when you take a look at the S&P 500, the last 40 years of it, it's almost double that. All right. And that's something that I am a little bit happier with. At a younger age, I told myself, and my risk appetite is a little bit higher than the 5% yield that a savings account has. Another thing about the high yield savings account is when the rates are going up, amazing, right? You're getting a pretty nice yield, like 5% yield. That's a pretty juicy yield. Like I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with that. Some of my clients get that. For myself, however, it's not as high as I wanted. At a younger age, like myself, 27 years old, I wanted something a little bit more high yield, a little bit more riskier, right? Now, I don't want something that's too risky, like let's say a Bitcoin that's super volatile, but I also don't want something that's super not volatile, like a high yield savings account. For me, like stocks is the best way for me to go. Now, one thing about high yield savings account, especially in this particular time period that we're in right now, is that the Federal Reserve, they've announced that now is the time for cutting rates. Now, do I have a crystal ball that knows exactly how much the rates are going to be cut by? Absolutely not. But I'm just going off of what they said, which is that this is the time for us to lower the rates. And if that's the case, we should expect more than one rate cut. Currently, we had a 50 basis rate cut in September. Now we're going to have another 2 meetings, the Fed meetings, in November and December. And if they both go down, we don't know exactly how much, but let's just hypothetically say 50 basis points each time, you can expect your savings account yields going from 5% annual percentage yield to maybe 2 or 3%. When that happens, some people that were happy getting the 5% yield, they may not be happy with a 2% or 3% yield. They may be happier with a higher yield. Maybe they go into corporate bonds. Maybe they go into stocks. Whichever they pick, there will be less demand for the high yield savings account. The reason why is because you're getting a lesser yield. And when that happens, that is typically good for stock market because there is more liquidity in the market. Now, for the people that use a high yield savings account as like for an emergency fund, I got no problem with that, right? I applaud that. Like if I could use my high yield savings account as an emergency fund, I'm happy. The thing about it, for me specifically, why I don't use it as an emergency, what happens if I happen to lose my job? What happens if, just worst case scenario, I need the money, right? To me, I'm in a situation where I might be different from yours. Luckily for me, my parents live 1 hour away from me. I have the unfair advantage of living 1 hour away from my parents and that unfair advantage of having a safety net. That is an advantage that not everybody can say they do, right? Not everybody have family that live close by that can be their backup plan. And because I have that safety net, if worst case scenario happens to occur and I need liquidity really quickly, maybe in a day or so. I know I could always depend on my parents. I would always try not to depend on them, but I know that there is that backup plan if there is. And as a result, I could be a little bit more, I could take a little bit more risk because of that safety net. Now, worst case, you might be wondering, like, how liquid is my stocks? Let's say if I really needed 100,000 or 50,000 or whatever, I just needed to sell my stocks in general. It will take me one business day for the stocks to clear. And then let's say I were to transfer money from Robinhood or my Bank of America Merrill Edge to my checking account. That would take another 4 to 5 business days. I could get the money essentially within 2 weeks. It's not super liquid if you went to the bank and withdrew from the teller line or an ATM. However, it's a liquid enough for me where if I needed the money, I could get it within a week or two. Now, another reason why I don't use a high yield savings account, even besides this emergency part, is like at this part in age, I am at a point where I'm trying to build wealth. All right. I'll be very honest. I don't consider myself a wealthy person. I don't consider myself as having wealth. And if that's my main priority, I'm not trying to preserve my wealth. I'm trying to build my wealth. The best way I can think of it, the couple assets, appreciating assets that I can think of is stocks, which is very easy for me to get into. Like it's easy as downloading a brokerage app and putting money and picking the stocks I want. I could get into real estate. Real estate, I need a lot of cash to get started, right? I can't get started in real estate with $1,000. At least I don't personally know how. Or starting my own business, some sort of a business that would appreciate. However, that would require a lot of work, a lot of time that I don't have. The best way for me, I'm thinking, to build my wealth is through investing in the stock market. Now, do I tell people, hey, you gotta invest all your money? Absolutely not. Each person is different. For some people, investing in the stock market might work for them. For others, putting their money in the savings account might work for them as well. In my particular case, I did have a high yield savings account, and in my personal opinion, I could not build my wealth with a high yield savings account. The yield that I was getting on my savings account, it wasn't enough for me to be considered as a real wealth builder. It was not volatile for me enough. The money did not grow as I expected. I needed a little bit of a higher yield, and as a result, my risk appetite rose. And for me, that's why I put the majority of my money, almost all of it, into stock investing. For the people that do believe in a high yield savings account, I am not trying to convince you otherwise. If it's working for you, if you're happy with the yield that you're getting year over year, my thing is never be greedy. If you're happy with it, stick to what's working. But however, I don't want you to consider high yield savings account as like a wealth builder, a way for you to become wealthy. I consider savings account essentially as savings, like something that you need in case you need an emergency, right? That's what I see high yield saving accounts really be good at being utilized. But if somebody is trying to become a wealth builder mainly through their savings account, I'm gonna be completely honest. It's tough for me to see it getting that 5% yield. Now it's a lot of banks are getting lower. I can expect the rates to be not always this high at 5%. It's gonna be difficult and more difficult to use a high yield savings account as a real wealth builder. If when I think about wealth builders here, I'm thinking about appreciating assets. And when I talk about appreciating assets, there's three that I can think about: stock investing, real estate investing, or businesses. Now, yes, I do agree there are alternative investments that you can do, like collectible cards. I'm not in that space. Those three are the biggest ones that I can personally think of. And just use that when you're managing your money. That how do you want to utilize these different type of accounts? How do you want to utilize your checking account? How do you want to utilize your savings account? How do you want to utilize your investment accounts? I want to thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any questions and more insights on how I think about high yield savings account, please put it in the comments. I'd be happy to make a video response to your questions. This is what I do for fun. This is like one of my hobbies. And thank you very much. And I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.